How's it? This is a video on the Rust server for late 2023. Reason why this video is being made, as there have been updates and a few issues have been found when it comes to setting up a new server, and I'm hoping to sort those out. We can start by downloading steamcmd. We're going to obviously go to Google, you type steamcmd, click on that. We are currently going to be running a server on Windows. So we get to the Windows section. We are going to click the number 1. I'm going to be downloading it to my desktop. Now it's downloaded, I'm going to extract it here as well on top of that. Once you've downloaded steamcmd, the way I download my Rust servers is I tend to run it in the same file that I have it. So I'm going to call this Rust server. There is another way where you do a force install onto a specific location. I don't do that. Reason why I don't do that is I like to be able to back up my server onto a flash drive, and if I have everything in one folder, I can easily do that. Cool. Now that we have extracted the folder, we can then go here, say run as administrator. The program's going to run an update on itself, and while it's doing that, we can actually grab the one thing I need. Cool. Once the steamcmd has updated, we are going to log in anonymous and copy paste our thing. So we're going to do app_update 258550 validate. This will download the Rust server files to our PC, in which we can then run our server. Now that the game has installed, we can either type quit or click on the X. I'm going to type quit just to do it like that. And currently it looks like we have all the files. From here, we're going to go Steam Apps. We're going to go into Common, Rust Dedicated. We have the server files here. What we're going to do is we're going to go View. We're going to make sure we have file name extensions ticked. Reason why we have that is when we go new folder, text document, we're going to call it start server, and then we're going to then delete the .txt and add .bat. It's going to ask us if we want to change the file. We say yes, right click and say edit. From here, I'm going to provide all the details that are currently on the side here. We're going to copy from echo off to go to start, copied into here. One thing to note is if you're trying to make an online account and use rcon, you'll then leave it as is, and we'll discuss further settings later. If you're going to be using just a local one-time server, just for yourself or for recording, or for local use if you're going to have friends over at your place, that's the type of thing, we don't need rcon. And for the way I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to actually get rid of it, otherwise it won't run. We just get rid of all these settings that have rcon in its name. Perfect. Cool. Now from here, we have a few options. We can actually select a seed for the game, a world size. You can adjust how many players you want. Currently, I've got it set to 50. Normally, most documents you find will say 10. And you can have a server name. If you want to look for different maps, you can actually check out rustmaps.com, which will then generate whole bunch of maps according to your specifications, whether it's monuments, size, different biome percentages, and map size. And that will be for that. Cool. Now that we're happy with how we have this, I'm going to leave as is. I'm going to close this. And to make my life a little bit easier, I'm actually going to create a shortcut, which then I can throw onto the desktop. I am also going to go back to the Rust server folder with all the beginning files and create another folder, which I'm going to call update server. And then we're going to call that .bat. Yes, we do want it like that. Edit, and we can use the same settings as we used originally in the beginning, where it says we start the steamcmd program, we log in anonymous, and we then run the update for that and save. Beware, if you find that this does not work, you can run steamcmd manually, log in anonymous, and then manually add that and then run the update. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It can be a bit tricky at times. Cool, and now we've got that, we can actually create a shortcut for it as well. And now from here, we can start the Rust server. Once the server has started, we can actually add ourselves as the owner. So we'll go owner, if I'm not mistaken, ID, there may be a space there or not, and it'll be your Steam account's ID number. Currently, I do have my main server up, which I use for myself personally. So what I'll be doing here is I will hit save the server, and then close it. All the files have loaded up and sorted, so that's all good. And I will show you shortly how to see your server locally on your network. Once you have your server running on a device that you require, and you followed the steps before, you should be able to go down to View on Steam. You go then to Game Servers. Currently I have my server showing over here because I've already added it, but I'm going to remove it from my favorites, add. So currently my server locally, this is going to be my local IPv4 server settings. We're going to go 192.168.88.32. Sometimes this can change, but it'll be 28.0.16 for now. Sometimes it can be the 15, sometimes it can be the 16. And I can see the server is loaded and ready and I can join. So this is mainly going to be for the local server. Once you start your game up and you go into it, you should be seeing this under your favorites tab so you can connect locally. Otherwise, you can hit F1 localhost 0. Or you can do the IP address like I've done already here. But I find adding it here and then going into the game is a lot easier. Next thing we need to look at is our firewall settings if we desire to have the server be an online one where our friends can externally join. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to go to the firewall, go advanced settings. I'll provide this as I said. We're going to go inbound, new rule. We're going to say we're going to set a port. We're going to go TCP in the beginning. So what we can do is we can grab those three, pop them into there. Next, allow connection, domain, private, and public. We want those all ticked. I'm going to say Rust server. We're going to go TCP in. Then we're going to do the UDP next. So we're going to go port, next, UDP. Copy paste these in. You guys can type them in if it's needed. Please be aware that if you require rcon, you may need to add the IP or the port over here. Yeah, just the port. And we're going to go next, allow, have those settings ticked as well. We're then going to go Rust server UDP in. We're going to go outbound settings and do the same. Port, next, TCP. Copy that. Allow connection. There we're going to go Rust server TCP out. I'll do the same with the UDP now. I just do this just because it makes it a lot easier in case we encounter any issues. Next, allow connection. Next, we're going to then say Rust server UDP out. Next. Cool. All of those are set up. You will need to add these ports to your router if your router allows port forwarding. If your router does not allow port forwarding, you will not be able to have your server connect to the outside world or to Steam. Sometimes you'll have your router refer to it as port mapping, port forwarding, or server. So I would recommend looking at your settings for all three options and alternatives. Just for some troubleshooting, I have added here a link to a UMod link or a UMod discussion form. There has been an issue for where if you try connecting to your server externally or locally, it will sometimes say kicked EAC verify ID token connection invalid. You have a couple different options in order to counter this. Well, one of them is to add anti-cheat token into here where you have the plus. So you'll just add it in between one of the lists. What this will do is it'll, if your EAC link is not up to date or not the same as the server you're connecting to. It will ignore it and allow you to connect regardless. One thing I did find that helps for myself is, this was on the form as well, is to download the certificate or repository, install it onto the device you're going to be running your server, and for me that's solved the issue when it came down to not being able to connect and getting kicked the whole time. Cool. Now once you've done everything and you're sorted, we can actually run Rust and see how it connects in the long run. So currently it takes a while for me to load in, but I have my main server open on my secondary device. As you guys saw when we went to the server list or the guide for my favorites, we can connect and we'll show you here on how that works. Once we're in the game, now that we have added everything, we should just go play, favorited, and our server will be right here. As we are connecting locally, we're going to have a very low ping. Our friends, if they are locally in your area, they'll have ping roughly around 40 to 80. And if they're going to be connecting from a different country, they may have around about between 100 plus. All comes down to where they are in the world. Currently we're in SA, so anyone connected in SA will get about ping around 40. Everyone else, such as Australia and them, they'll get 80 to 100. And UK and then we'll get about 200 or so. Please be aware that once you've got your server up and running, it can take up to 2 days before it starts showing up in the community or modded list. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hopefully it was helpful. Let me know if there's any recommendations or things that you guys would like to see. I'll see if I can get to them. It's usually, I can't really do the mods side as I'm not very good with that. I'm very good with just the basic server settings because that's generally what I play with my friends, is the vanilla side, as we want to play long term. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers, bye bye.